Good morning. We have a mantra from the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, quite in the beginning, number 5. And we all know about Bhagavad Gita. Let us chant it first and then go into the meaning. Om Uddhareratmanatmanam Uddhareratmanatmanam Natmanam avasadhayet Natmanam avasadhayet Atmaiva hyatmano bandhur Atmaiva hyatmano bandhur Atmaiva ripuratmanaha Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. And I will lead again. Uddhareratmanatmanam Uddhareratmanatmanam Natmanam avasadayet Natmanam avasadayet Atmaiva hyatmano bandhur Atmaiva hyatmano bandhur Atmaiva ripuratmanaha Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Together. Uddhareratmanatmanam Natmanam avasadayet Atmaiva hyatmano bandhur Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Everybody will notice that there's one word that occurs quite a few times in these 4 small lines. And the original of that word is Atman. And as Sanskrit does, there are different endings, end syllables to words, indicating the different functions in the sentence, etc. So Atman is the original. Sometimes it's Atma. When it comes into English, it can be Atma or Atman. Both is fine. It's a grammar difference. And Atman is translated as the self. Now there is a self with a small s. There's a self with a capital S. And also, Atman is the word underlying our phrase, I am. You see it is in quotes, if you can see, the I am. That is the self. There is one with a small a, m, the individual self or I am, capital A, the cosmic self or I am, which is one only, and I am with all caps, the absolute I am, beyond even creation of the universe. So which ones are meant, or which one is meant in the mantra? Individual I am, or the small I am, or the great I am. Sometimes it's sufficient to just say the great I am. Okay. Uddhareratmanatmanam. So this I am, by the way, this self is called the pure consciousness in us, not the body, not the mind, not the senses, not the ego, which identifies with the body, mind, and senses. But the pure spirit is another word for that, the soul, the self. So uddhared means one should lift up, uplift. Ud is up, dri is the root. One should uplift. Now here in the middle of this long word there is a joining, a juncture, a sandhi as we call it. Atmana met with Atmanam, and two A's cannot help themselves. Those sounds will melt together into one. Atmanatmanam. You have to know a little bit grammar, so I'm helping, I'm telling you. Atmana, by the self. Atmanam, the self as an object. So a person should uplift the self by the self. If both of those selves were the same, it seems impossible, right? To lift yourself up by your own, how do they say in English? It's a little different. Lift yourself up by your own bootstraps or something. It is not, I think it's that same idea. One should uplift the self by the self, or one's self by one's self. And here, natmanam is really na atmanam. But the atmanam is the same as you had in here. Not the self. Avasadayet. Avasadayet. Ava is down. Ud is up as a prefix. Ava is down. Sadaya comes from sad, to put down, to make it go down. Sometimes they translate debase oneself. One should not put one's self down. Now, who is that person? Where are we in the story of the three I ams? When you say uplift, it would be uplifting the lower self to the level of the higher self. When we say putting down, depressing also is the same meaning. It would mean not respecting the higher self and pulling it down, putting it down on the level of matter maybe, or the thinking mind. So that is right away interpretation, but you do have more than one level inside. Let's say higher and lower. Higher is going all the way up to very high. That's all right. When you're stuck in the body-mind and feel you cannot come out, then you must be in the lower mind. And this is telling you, lower mind, lower self, they go together, right? It's really only one, and it's even only one mind. But the energy flow is different, whether something's going up or going down, and it fluctuates. So self and mind are so intricately joined together that sometimes the one becomes the other, right? One should, so one is the person, we are in the middle of it all. One should uplift oneself by oneself. One should never, one should not put oneself down. Atmaiva has a sandhi in it. Atma eva. When you see Atma, which is hidden here, it is the subject case. The self, eva, indeed. He is another tiny emphasizer word. It became here. Atmano is Atmana. Same word Atman again. Of the self, indeed. Bandhur is Bandhu, is the friend. Is understood. The self indeed is the friend of the self. Atma eva, the self indeed. What is Ripu? You imagine now? The enemy is the enemy, Atmana, of the self. This Atmano you see here is the same word really as Atmanah, but Sandhi, S-A-N-D-H-I. When sounds meet together, they react on each other. When they do, it is called, special Sandhi. But the meaning is not touched by that. So Atmano is Atmana, same thing, of the self. So the self indeed is the friend of the self. The self indeed is the enemy of the self. Somewhere I saw a quote, it's I think from some cartoon. We have seen the enemy, it is us. I have seen that. I have seen that. Is it possible? One can be self-defeating. But that is the lower self, right? In the next mantra in Bhagavad Gita, it will explain how this applies to us in life. The person who has self-control, by that, manages to remove the conflict between the lower and higher. But the higher should control the lower. That is the point. That person has their own self, even in the form of their own mind, as their friend. And the person who does not try to control themselves, they have their own self and mind as the enemy. So that is not even said here, it comes in the next verse, but that will be understood. So once more, the question comes, this seemingly three I ams, let us say there's the lower and the higher, they're one. But experience is such that we can go up and down and be on any level. And these teachings tell us it is up to us. If you allow others, then that is also up to you. Don't allow others to determine your life, especially your mental and spiritual life. Outer circumstances may be out of our control, but the inner, we have a lot of possibility. This is all about making you feel strong, because you're your own friend and you're your own enemy. It's a harsh truth, but if a person that you know tells you that, you may react more or less violently. Who are you to tell me? But if Bhagavad Gita, that's not a person, it is essence of Vedanta, tells you that, you can try to process it. Facts are facts, psychological facts. Let us see again, chant once more. Uddharerat manatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Different melody. Uddharerat manatmanam Uddharerat manatmanam natmanam avasadayet natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Once more, a running translation. One should uplift oneself by oneself. One should not put oneself down. For the self indeed is the friend of the self. And the self indeed is the enemy of one's self. One should bring one's own lower being, one's own lower mind, up to the level of pure spirit, which is what we really are. So from the identification with the body and ever-changing mind to the consciousness, the light in the heart, that is the cosmic I am, one in all beings, one for all beings. That is the process of meditation. And one should never neglect one's soul, one's real self, which is pure consciousness, spirit, and feel that one is the body only and subject to all the influences in the mind also. One should not do that. It's a good advice. And all the yogas and practices that we try to do are for that purpose, to help us. One more chanting. Uddharerat manatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om.